have, I would say now, a crisis of state authority where simultaneously Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen all have failed central states that cannot keep order. And we've now been dealing with this new body that no one had heard about previously, ISIS, terrorist organization. But I don't believe that, these high testosterone, disaffected kids actually will create a state, except when they can take advantage of the weakness of other states. And the reason that these Islamists have flowed through into places like Mali and northern Nigeria, with Boko Haram and regions like that, is that they don't have governments that can actually provide security for their citizens, and they're filling this kind of vacuum. The other part of the world is Eurasia, where you have Russia and China at either end that are organized as hierarchical, centralized, bureaucratic states, and they're very powerful, and they're making very traditional kinds of territorial claims against their neighbors. And that actually throws us back into a 19th, 20th century world that's pretty familiar. It doesn't make it easier to deal with, but that produces a kind of interstate conflict that was the kind of staple of earlier generations of diplomats and soldiers. The really difficult problem actually has been that weak state world in which state authority doesn't exist, and a great deal of the foreign policy of the United States and Britain and other members of NATO in places like Afghanistan and Iraq has revolved around actually state building, is actually creating the basic institutions of the state. And one thing that we, I think, have very painfully discovered is that the democracy part of a modern state is actually not that hard to put into effect. So we've had democratic elections in both Iraq and Afghanistan. The really hard part is getting to actually a modern state that can deliver services, provide security, and is regarded